You know that the issue of grooming and rape gangs has become politicised. Are there any particular political parties, I'll ask each of you briefly, or specific politicians that you trust on this, Kate?
Not really. Everyone's sharing their particular points. I feel like nobody's actually grasping the gravity of the situation or what actually happened. I don't think we're actually having those open and honest, intelligent conversations about the ethnicity, about the lack of convictions. I think it's all just been sort of brushed over, washed over, and we're not actually getting anywhere. We're just going round and round in circles.
Jade, are there any politicians or particular parties that you trust?
No, I don't trust none of them.
None of them?
None of them, no. I've been let down too many times.
I feel like they all talk and say what we want to hear, but we don't see actions. And if they all want to say like they are on our side and they are going to tackle these grooming things, well, help us then, show us, and let's hold people accountable for what's gone on.
Fiona, you know there have been at least 10 previous inquiries and reviews into grooming gangs around the UK. The big one, the National Independent Inquiry by Professor Alexis Jay, took 7 years, many millions of pounds, 2 million words. There were 51 mentions of the word grooming in that big report. What is it you want from the forthcoming audit from Baroness Casey? What would you ideally like to see?
So I want to see highlight the places where there's the most trafficking going on, where there's the highest level of CSE, where there's the highest level of failings.
Where it's still going on, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
where it's still going on and where it went on historically as well. So then they can assign like some independent people to do force localised inquiries all over these cities with statutory powers, accountability.
So local inquiries, but with strong powers.
Yeah, but all to feed back to a national overview, because the local inquiries can't tackle the grooming problem, they can't tackle the trafficking, they can't tackle the trends within the abusers and stuff like that, to come up with framework to target, to try and prevent the crime in the first place. We don't just want convictions, we want the crime prevented.
Of course. We're going to introduce you now to the top police officer in England and Wales on this issue, and her name is Deputy Chief Constable Becky Riggs. Welcome to Newsnight. Please take a seat. Thank you very much for being with us. Becky Riggs is the National Police Chiefs Council's lead for child protection and abuse investigation, and I know you have been listening very carefully to what Fiona and Chantel and Kate and Jade have been saying tonight. You are not responsible for what happened in their cases, of course, in terms of the failings by the authorities, but it is hard to get your head round the fact that police officers treated victims like they did.
Yeah. And just before I get into answering that point, Victoria, I'd just like to say, ladies, I think you're incredibly brave with what you've done this evening, the journey that you've been on. And I think it's a really important message that you give, not just to policing, but actually to other members of society from all walks of life with regards to your lived experience. Your voices matter, and they always have.
But can I just say, their voices haven't always mattered. They've just described that this evening.
Yeah, and I hear that, and there is nothing more. These crimes are abhorrent, they are appalling, and they are unpalatable. And I am not here to defend errors of the past, and I will not. I can't defend the indefensible. What I can do is talk to you about what policing does now, working alongside other agencies to safeguard vulnerable children, particularly those that go missing. I think in 2025 we are much more alive to some of the signs and symptoms with regards to children that are being exploited, and we work incredibly hard with a number of agencies to understand what that looks like. Victoria, I know you have some data. We have the Child Sexual Exploitation Task Force that has worked incredibly hard for policing to truly understand the scale and scope of what child sexual exploitation is across England and Wales.
Shall I just talk about some of that data? Because it is exclusive new data that your organisation has shared with us tonight for our audience. So for the whole of 2024, group-based CSE, child sexual exploitation, i.e. grooming gangs, accounted for 17% of all group-based sexual abuse crimes against children. And looking at the ethnicity of suspects, and the MPCC say you have to regard these figures with caution because only just under a third of suspects had their ethnicity recorded. In 2024, as you can see there, of those suspects where ethnicity is known, just over half are white British. Pakistani suspects are substantially overrepresented in grooming cases where the ethnicity is known. In England and Wales, about 1 in 40 people are Pakistani. Of grooming gang suspects where ethnicity is recorded, about 1 in 8 are Pakistani. And what do those figures tell you, Deputy Chief Constable Riggs?
What those figures tell you is the scale and the scope of what is crime reported figures. So that is actual crimes that have been reported to policing that have been investigated to varying degrees. What that will also show you when it comes to group-based offending is it comes in all shapes, sizes and forms. So whilst there is a real focus in terms of Pakistani Asian males grooming gangs, you will see from that data that it will tell you that there are other risks to children as well, such as...
Can I just say though, like, wherever there's an overrepresentation, there's normally a reason why that person's, whether that's gender, ethnicity, anything, where there's an overrepresentation, that means that there's normally an issue behind that then needs tackling.
Yeah, and all of these issues need tackling. I'm not here to lessen any of this type of offending in the slightest. These are all abhorrent crimes. These crimes are still relevant today. With these,
well, that's what I was going to ask.
These ladies are talking about historic crimes, but actually,
is it happening now?
The data,
yeah.
These are actually crimes that happen in society today.
And in how many towns and cities? Because the leader of the Conservative Party says rape gangs have a presence in over 50 towns. What would you say?
Yeah, I would say that out of the 44 forces that we collect this data from, the majority of those forces will have some form of group-based offending. In fact, all of them will have some form of group-based offending reported to them. Yeah.
And the Shadow Justice Secretary suggested that these crimes are from predominantly British Pakistani men. According to your data, that's not true.
That's not true, yeah. And we can only go with the data because that's obviously presenting the evidence base for us. So there is a truth, of course, that there is a proportion of these perpetrators who we will relentlessly pursue in terms of these types of crime, who are obviously Pakistani men, and our data tells us that.
And they're overrepresented when you look at their share of the population.
Yeah, but what you can also see is that there is a proportion of children that are at risk in the family domain, and also in institutional environments, whether that be, you know, clubs, schools, caring regimes.
I don't think anyone's ever said, though, that there isn't group-based crime from all races. I think it was the point that it was ignored historically for certain perpetrators, whereas it wasn't for others. So I don't think anyone's ever been under the impression that there isn't group-based offences from all races.
I'd like to know as well, like, obviously off the new knowledge that you know now, back from years ago, what are you actually doing different there to protect these girls?
Yeah, and I can't talk about your specific crimes, okay,
yeah,
so that's an area I can't go down, but what I can talk about is what this data helps us do from a national policing perspective is it helps us understand what the risks are to children. It helps us it helps us shape our policy and our strategies. It helps us inform what resources that we need applied to protecting children, how we interact with other agencies such as children's social care.
So are you doing education within like schools and stuff like that that's designed to impact the people most at risk of either becoming victims or perpetrators and stuff?
Without a doubt. And obviously this piece of data is actually very new. The first time that we produced this data, because of the emerging picture, because of the concerns that were being reported through members of community, through our partnerships, there was an investment in relation to the CSE task force, which helped us pull the data together on a national scale.
I just want to clarify, is it going on now still?
Group-based offending, these crimes
grooming
are
gangs?
connected. Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
And are you able to say how widespread it is?
Well, you will see from the data just to the extent of what that is. And as I've mentioned earlier, I genuinely think there would be, out of the 44 forces, there would be very few that would say that there isn't a crime of that type being investigated in their organisation.
So is that, are we saying most cities across England and Wales? Across the country?
In England and Wales, it's highly likely that there is, within that police network, and within that geography there will be a city. But this isn't just a city crime. I just need to manage that one, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
There's nuances to these types of crime. This happens in rural environments. This happens in local communities.
Oh, that's a small town.
Yeah. This isn't a city crime, and it's also there's a misconception around it being a northern crime. It isn't.
Sure.
This is England and Wales. This data represents crimes reported across policing in England and Wales.
I think the other thing is everyone's...
Sorry, Fiona. The issue has become politicised. I wanted to get your response, Becky Riggs, to that. What do you think of that?
I think it's really unhelpful when we are trying to work to protect children across the landscape with all of the work that we are trying to do, which is trauma-informed. They're safeguarding at the heart of everything we do, victims right front and centre, and we will relentlessly pursue the perpetrators. When there is an acute focus on one specific area, from a victim perspective, we know this because they told us after what happened in January, it undermines other offences committed against other children. Yeah, so they will say their crime isn't
happened to us because we never got that. We got failed and we got it covered over. Yeah. It's good to focus on convictions and focus on the future and prevention, but there are hundreds of thousands of victims that got failed and have never...
And still not getting justice. And
they're still getting failed.
It's only being publicised now, though, because you were too slow to act. Because this has been going on for years, decades. This has been going on, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting. And
so in the last 12 months, we've had something in the region of about 123,000 child sexual abuse and exploitation crimes reported to policing. And then obviously some of this data really drills into group-based offending and grooming gangs.
So we really should be seeing some accountability next. If them numbers are that high and you know what's going on, like, we shouldn't still be begging and something needs to change,
Yeah, and there's a couple of things around
how you do this differently.
Yeah, we've now got the National Centre, which supports how we do a trauma-informed approach, how it trains policing. The College of Policing really supports that specialism in terms of what children need, and they also help us around the across the landscape, so children's social care, education, because this is programmes to educate children.
Children's social care haven't changed. They haven't changed at all. Literally a year ago, they were still trying to get me to take responsibility for it.
Can I just ask one question? So, if a child comes in and says that they've been sexually assaulted, and then comes in however many months down the line and wants to drop that, do you just drop it, or will you actually look into it?
No,
because mine got dropped and I got arrested for wasting police time straight away.
Yeah, we
Instead of getting it looked into.
Pursue those people and look for evidence-led prosecutions against those children, even if they are not willing to provide the full evidence in terms of that experience. And we will work with partners and some of the agencies who are exceptional in how they support children and the psychological trauma that they've experienced to help build trust and confidence to support them through any future prosecutions.
Becky Riggs, thank you very much for being with us. We've just got a couple of minutes left before the end of the programme, and you have each brought a photograph of when you were younger, which you are kindly going to show to our audience. Fiona, what do you feel when you look at that photo of you?
I remember innocence, and I feel sad about the loss of innocence.
Kate, what would you say when you look at that photo of you as a toddler?
It just reminds me of how kind I was, even as a toddler, and so much has changed. So I mean, I'm still kind, but that's the one thing that about me that I kept, that I could keep. So it's quite an emotional picture for me to look at that.
So those abusers did not destroy your kindness?
Yeah.
Jade?
This picture brings back from when it just started. So it brings
How old
back
were you there?
14.
Right.
Brings back loads of trauma, really.
Yeah. Chantal?
I was actually 11 years old on this photo. I was living with foster parents in Wales and I was really, really happy.
Were you?
Yeah, when I look back at it, it's the only picture that I have got of me as a child. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and it does make me happy, but then I look at it and I feel like if I would have stayed there, all the abuse and all the hurt and trauma, wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I wish I could have stayed that child and not gone through what I did go through.
Oh. Now, some of you are mums now. I bet you're a good mum, aren't you, Chantal?
Yeah, I like to think I am. I say I'm the best mum.
And Jade and Fiona, and this is that part of the reason why you want to speak out publicly on national television? Because you've got daughters, because there are girls out there, there's nieces, there's sisters.
Yeah, and do you know what as well? Like, growing up, being labelled a prostitute from social services and Greater Manchester Police, I'm 33 today, shall I say?
Yeah, it's your birthday. I should have said
I've
that.
only met Jade twice before, and because of what we've been through and the way we've been treated, we've connected straight away. Like that bond that we've got.
Feels like we've known each other a lifetime.
Yeah, and it's just because we can relate through the hurt and the pain. Like, growing up, because I was always moved around, I've never felt comfortable with someone and to open up like I have with Jade.
That's good to hear. Jade, we have many politicians and influential figures who watch Newsnight. They're watching you right now. What do you want to say to them directly about helping you overturn your conviction?
Well, I have got a petition on, is it change.org?
You tell me.
Yeah, change.org
Yeah.
to help me. Anyone that can sign that petition to help me clear my name, I'd appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
And get you on them skill trips.
Yeah, get me on them school trips with my babies.
Yeah. In terms of how what's happened to you has affected your life and continues to affect your life, Kate, what would you say in a sentence or two?
We've got to stop this. We've got to stop people being hurt this way. We've got to stop people from experiencing the mental struggles that I experienced as a result of being abused. We can't carry on allowing this to happen.
Fiona, the effect on you in your life?
I've literally, this last 12 months being the first time in my life I can start looking forward to the future, because I've literally been persecuted up until 2023. I've been repeatedly blamed by services, by the public. Still to this day I get blamed, but I've constantly had barriers put in my way to stop me progressing with my life, and I just think right now the whole country needs to be protecting as children. Every children of this country should be protected, not the perpetrators.
Jade, the effect on you in your life?
Oh, it's affected my life miserably. I've suffered with mental health issues because of it. I haven't been able to get a job. As I said, fighting social services off my case for my kids, missing out on school trips. It's untold. It's untold. I've suffered in silence for majority of it, and then I went to Maggie Oliver Foundation, and it's because of her I am here where I am now.
Yeah. Chantal?
Well, from leaving care at 17, I just put it in a big dark hole. I met my husband and we just had our own family. He never knew nothing about it, no one did. And then in 2019, I brought it all up. So for the past 6 years, it's been a living nightmare. I wish I never would have reopened it.
Really?
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here fighting for justice and begging for justice when they know who they are, yet they're still out there walking the streets. I just feel totally let down, and was it worth it? I feel like I'm never going to get justice.
I've got some statements. We've contacted various councils and forces around the country about your cases. Greater Manchester Police told us we understand the frustration of Chantal. The long and complex investigations time will be no barrier to Greater Manchester Police's commitment to seeking justice for survivors. They also said 5 men were arrested between November 2021 and December 2022. 3 remain under investigation, released on bail, and Manchester City Council apologised for the abuse Chantal suffered under their care and said there'd been a fundamental change of approach since then. Responding to Fiona's story, Bradford Council said, we've acknowledged that there were significant failings in Fiona's care and we have apologised to her for this. Responding to Jade, Thames Valley Police said, we presented evidence to the CPS who authorised charges against a girl of causing, inciting another girl to engage in sexual activity as well as intimidating a witness. The jury found the defendant guilty. If anybody feels they have been wrongly convicted or sentenced, they have the right to appeal to the Court of Appeal. You going to do that, Jade?
I guess I am.
They've told us they have not received any complaints about Jade's case. The Ministry of Justice had previously apologised to Kate, when she wasn't informed about the release of one of her abusers. If you've been affected by anything we've spoken about tonight, there is so much support and advice available at the website whenyouareready.co.uk. There it is. When You Are Ready is all one word, by the way. And then also, there is the BBC's Action Line. It's got loads of advice for anyone affected by child sexual exploitation. I want to thank you all so much